What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I'm your host, D-Big. Joining with me, as always, is my co-host, James DiLullo. How's it going, James?
It's going, man. I'm ready to talk this fight, break this down. This is a hell of a card.
I know tonight we will be previewing UFC 267, which is headlined by Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira for the light heavyweight championship. And of course, this is going to be taking place in Abu Dhabi Fight Island for the first time in a year. How do you
Yep.
feel about this fight card in full?
Oh well, the fight card's stacked. A lot of international fighters on this card, obviously because it's Fight Island. Two
Yeah.
American fighters with New Jersey's own Andre Petrosky, who we talked about a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and Cory Sandhagen, who's going to be on this main card that we're going to talk about. But the rest, a lot of Russians on this fight. I'm expecting a lot of sambo, a lot of wrestling. I'm very, very excited about this. From top to bottom, this card is absolutely amazing.
I'll tell you this: this was a tough card to do my DFS by Cage notes for because of all that, because of all the fighters on there, a lot of
Hmm.
Sambo guys, and they're all mostly stacked up at the top. And then, of course, the championship fighters are in the middle, so like it made
Yep.
for a lot of note taking just for that. But I'm looking forward to putting that episode together so all you guys can check out DFS by Cage later this week. It'll probably be released on Wednesday or Thursday. But of course, before we get into the preview, as always, this is Cage by IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. We're partnered with the Fighters First Network on YouTube. So if you could go to YouTube, put in Fighters First, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well. So whenever we put content out, you get a hit on the notification section of your YouTube name, and then of course hit the like button and then comment on the video. Let us know what you think of the preview and who do you have on for your predictions. But of course, hit the like button. Like I said before, help us out with the channel, help us get people viewing it. And then, of course, we also have merch out now. All you got to do is go to fightersfirst.shop and check out all the collections that we have on there on fightersfirst.shop. And of course, we have our own Cage by IQ collection. All you got to do is go to fightersfirst.shop, scroll down to the Cage by IQ collection, and check out the shirt that we have in 3 different styles. And of course, the hoodie we have out now. And of course, in the future, we're going to come out with more stuff. So let us know what you think of this, and let us know what you think we should put out with in the future. But of course, let's get started with the preview that we have for the main card. We got 6 fights listed on the main card for Fight Island. And of course, the first fight that we have on tap is a matchup between Magomed and Ankalaev going up against Volkan Oezdemir, whereas Magomed Ankalaev is coming in at 15-1 and is the minus 330 favorite, whereas Volkan Oezdemir comes in at 17-5 and is the plus 260 underdog. Oezdemir is a fighter who likes to fight from a distance and use a ton of movement. He has a background in kickboxing, BJJ, and Muay Thai. He likes to use a stiff arm as a form of defense and to measure where he needs to throw to strike out his opponent. He likes to use the jab, hook, and overhand power strike. He can usually generate good power in his hands. He also uses lower calf kicks, leg kicks, and high kicks. He likes to level change often, and on the ground, he has great ground and pound and transitions. He needs to protect his chin better against big time strikers and needs to manage his cardio. And he has good pace and volume, whereas Ankalaev likes to use his hands and has good boxing. He likes to use combinations and likes to switch stances often. He tends to back up in a straight line with his chin in the air. In the clinch, he likes to throw knees to the body. He has good takedown defense. He goes for double leg takedowns along the fence where he likes to sweep the legs to get the result. And he likes to sit down and half guard while on the mat. And he uses good ground and pound. He also likes to fix in feints into his striking. And he has good cardio and pace. And he is very durable. Jim, what do you think of this fight? And who do you have winning?
Yeah, I like this matchup a lot. it's been a while since we've seen Oezdemir. I think he hasn't fought in about a year, but I actually like Ankalaev in this fight. Volkan hasn't fought in a year, I believe. I'm pretty sure his last fight was a year ago against Yuri Prohaska. But they they both have this knockout power, right? But what separates them is Magomed's striking defense. He moves his head very well. Like you said, he adds feints into everything. And that threat of the takedown. Oezdemir throws heavy. He lands heavy. But lately, he's been more calculated, like you said, fighting from a distance, striking from a distance.
Yeah.
He's got decent takedown defense, but I think the threat of Ankalaev's takedown is going to be a little too much for him. So I see Magomed getting these takedowns, wearing Volkan Oezdemir down, and then I see a third round knockout for Ankalaev.
I was very chill on this fight. Like I went back and forth, and then I almost sat on Ankalaev by a decision here. But then I did some note taking. I watched both of their last fights, and of course, Oezdemir it kind of struggles against big time punchers. And
Yeah,
his last fight against Krylov, Magomed kind of struggled with his striking, and then Krylov did really good with his takedown defense, and it kind of hurt Ankalaev in his game plan because his game plan usually is to get his opponent down, do control time, and then kind of use that to set up his striking. And he didn't really get a good enough chance to do that because of the defense. But Krylov isn't known too much for his striking, so he wasn't able to get his offense. So it kind of like worked in Ankalaev's favor. I could see a situation where one thing that's going to work against Ankalaev is kind of the fact that he moves backwards in a straight line. You're going to know
yeah,
where he's going if you get that forward pressure. And Volkan Oezdemir is the type of guy that could capitalize on the backwards movement, and then he just rushes forward, pressures him, and hits him with that awkward style striking that he usually does. And I
yeah,
think Ankalaev is going to be of course, he's a heavy favorite in it, but don't be surprised if Ankalaev get knocks out here in round two. I just have a feeling that like I am kind of leaning towards like Ankalaev by decision with the if he can get the takedowns going. But I feel like if any of that gets stuffed like in the last fight where there's kind of a blueprint to stop an Ankalaev, a guy that can that recapitalize striking wise is Volkan. And
yeah,
both of these guys were haven't fought in a year because I think that Ankalaev Krylov fight was last March, I believe it was. So it's
yeah.
been like a
February or
good,
March.
yeah. So it's been almost a year for him too. So I feel like Volkan will be able to get his striking going, and I feel like he can hurt Ankalaev. And the only thing that will kind of neutralize Volkan is the takedowns because I don't think the striking of Ankalaev is going to do much to Volkan. I could be proved wrong, and he can go in there like you
Yeah,
said,
right.
knock him out, knock him out. But I have a feeling there's going to be upset here, so I got Oezdemir by second round knockout.
Nice. I think a lot of people forget about the power Oezdemir has, right?
Yeah,
Because they go back and they see him, go into split decisions. But we kind of forget that he went and won a split decision against
yeah,
Alexander Ratchet, which is that's a big win of a top five contender in the division. So Volkan has hands. He's been a little more calculated lately, but um, it could really go any way. Like most of these fights could really go either way because the numbers. There's a lot of like heavy favorites, but
yeah.
there's layoffs, there's differences in styles, there's hype trains versus established fighters. There's a lot going on this card.
Just keep an eye out on how much Vulcan tries to use the jab because I think that's going to
Yeah,
be his bread and butter in this fight, where he tries to use the jab, moves around, and kind of just gets a read for Ankalaev, and then to see how he's going to use the setups for his takedowns. And I think the jab's going to try be used to keep him at bay. So keep an eye out on for that and see how much he uses it. Because if he can just use that and avoid the takedown, I think it's going to be a long night for
yeah,
Ankalaev because I think there's a lot of tools at Vulcan's disposal, where Ankalaev is kind of takedown heavy, as you would say,
Yeah.
as those guys do. But it's definitely going to be a good fight, like kind of cat and mouse style.
Yeah. We both see going to the third round, so that says something.
Yep. But let's move on to the second fight on the card. We have a welterweight matchup that pits Li Jingliang versus Khamzat Chimaev. First, you got Jingliang, who comes in at 18-6 and is the plus 340 underdog, whereas Khamzat Chimaev comes in at 9-0 and is the minus 440 favorite. First, you got Li Jingliang, who is a fighter who is trained in Chinese wrestling, Sanda, and BJJ. He is most comfortable on his feet, where he mixes it up. He goes for double leg takedowns and single leg takedowns, and usually has a good takedown defense, and also uses body lock into leg trips. He throws kicks like the low calf kick, body kick, and side kick. He has great hand speed and quick movement. He throws a left hook, jab, and nice overhand strike. He has good pace and cardio, and he has devastating power strikes. Whereas his opponent, Chimaev, is a fighter who likes to push forward and is a threat on his feet and on the ground. He has a background in Sambo, BJJ, Judo, and kickboxing. He has great cardio, pace, and insane durability. He likes to use a lot of feints and throws at the head at times to bait his opponents to move back so he can level change for takedowns. He goes for double leg takedowns and body locks in the leg trips. He likes to use ground and pound and transitions on the mat, and he has good submission game. He usually attacks both the head and the body with jabs, hooks, and crosses. He also throws kicks like the low calf kick, body kick, and high kick. He has great defense and good fighter IQ, and he likes to change stances and use constant movement. Jim, what do you think of this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Well, I think it's an interesting matchup, number one, and is an I think that this could be fight of the night when I looked at these matchups. And I think it's because both of these guys have a ton of power. A lot of people underestimate Jingliang when he goes into his fights like he did with Santiago Ponzinibbio and then just starched him. You know what I mean? And then we have Khamzat, who we haven't seen in a while, obviously, because of COVID, which was something that kind of weighed on my decision making in this because at one point he retired. Everybody, he thought he was going to die. There was like crazy amounts of like news coming out of the Chimaev camp. But with that being said, like I'm going with Khamzat Chimaev. I'm going to ride this hype train until I'm proven wrong. And I think it's just because he's the more well-rounded fighter. Lee is a great fighter and is really taking that next step. He lost one to Magny, but then going up against Ponzinibbio, that was a big win for him. And this is putting him on the global stage, right? Because everybody wants to see what Khamzat does. He's that trash talker. He's like the flavor of the week, and we haven't seen him for quite some time. I think his versatility plus the constant pressure of takedowns is going to set the pace and be a little too much for Lee. So I'm going to go with Chimaev by second round stoppage. I think via ground and pound.
If you look into Li Jingliang, that whole thing with him losing to Neil Magny, it was crazy because he lost to Magny, but then Ponzinibbio beat Magny, but then Li Jingliang stopped Ponzinibbio really quick in their fight.
Yeah.
Which was just so crazy because everybody was on Ponzinibbio to win that. Like he was a heavy favorite going in there, and then he just got stopped really fast. So it stunned a lot of people. And like you said, it put him on the kind of the map. And now he's gonna fighting Chimaev, who at one point was on top of the world. He had fought twice in 2 weeks. Oh no, I think it was 8 days. Which Lupita wound up passing, and then he also fought a third time like a month later or something like that, and then he was getting ready to get that big time push against Leon Edwards, which wound up going to Magomed for like a hot second, but then of course all that happened with the COVID, getting injured, the COVID came back. He retired. So we don't know what like shape and what Chimaev we're going to get. But if it's the Chimaev that we know that was there before, like you got to go with him because of the fact that he's been kind of unstoppable. You haven't seen any weaknesses in his game. He's just been dominating guys left and right. Even a guy like Gerard Meerschaert, who everybody written off, and then he goes and gets that second round submission in his last fight against somebody on the rise up. Got beat by him very bad, like just one punch. He's more known as the takedown submission guy, and he goes and gets a one punch knockout. So it's like
starched him.
What do you do against a guy? How do you game plan with him? And there's always that chance that Li Jingliang could capitalize on Chimaev not being at top shape, and then you can knock him out. I just don't see it happening because I see Khamzat Chimaev just closing the distance early, pressuring him backwards, and then just using that moment to get him to the ground. And to be honest, this is crazy, but I got first round submission for Chimaev. I think he's going to get to the ground, pressure him early, and submit him. I saw a little bit of that pressure by Magny against Li Jingliang, and I think it's one thing when Magny does it, but I think Chimaev will do it twice as good because of his background. So
he'll smother him.
He'll smother him. He'll kind of bait him into getting to his feet, and then he'll take the back and he'll rear naked choke him and win by submission. So I got Chimaev by first round submission via rear naked choke.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, like, we've only really gotten 3 looks at Chimaev in the UFC, right? But of those 3 looks, he's landed almost 10 strikes per minute in his fights. Like, and that's absolutely crazy for a guy who's known for submissions. He almost gets 5 takedowns per fight. It's insane the volume that he puts out in such a short kind of sample size that we've got. And he's not hittable. I think he's like less than 1 strike per minute is how much he absorbs, right? But when you look at Lee, he's got that big frame. He's very hittable. He keeps his head right on the line. I was going to go submission too, but like the BJJ, the Chinese wrestling, that kind of steered me away. So I think that's where we're going to get a lot of hammer fist and a ton of ground and pound. And this is going to be a bloody fight.
Yeah, I think if you see Li Jingliang stay on the mat, I could see that happening. I just have a feeling that Li Jingliang going to try and get up because he has pretty decent get-ups. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see more like a baiting by Khamzat just to get that submission. He's going to be like, okay, you can get up, and then he's going to take the back and choke him out because I just don't see Li Jingliang once he's on the ground. I don't see him getting up.
Okay, all right, We'll see, man. We also forgot to mention that this is an 11 o'clock fight start, right? The main card's at 2 o'clock.
The prelims are on 10 and the main card's at 1.
Yeah, this is a very early fight, so I wanted to make that clear because I know some of our viewers are gonna be like 7 o'clock waiting for that main card to jump on and like, what the hell?
And it's gonna be on ESPN Plus, and I think it's gonna be on ABC too.
That's awesome. It's a pay-per-view that's on for free. I absolutely love it.
Yep. But let's move on to the third fight on the main card. We got a heavyweight matchup that pits Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura. Volkov comes in at 33-9 as the minus 300 favorite, whereas Tybura comes in at 22-6 as the plus 240 underdog. First, we got Volkov, who likes to strike with a body kick to southpaws and inside low kick, but majority of his offense comes from his hands. He uses a straight punch, jab, and counter two that are his go-to moves. He has a nice uppercut when his opponents lean low. He likes to push opponents to the fence to start attacking. And Volkov's takedown defense needs work, but he has a great chin and he has powerful punches. Whereas Tybura has good cardio and has gone the distance often and likes to switch stances. Inside striking game is underrated and should use it more along with his grappling. His kicks are really well for the weight class. He ducks shots at times to go for takedowns and is a master at trips. When on top of mount, He is great with movement and ground and pound. Chin has improved a lot over the last few fights. When he loses, it's because he gets knocked out. He should push the pace in his fight and add feints to his game. And he's coming in with better stamina than he has in the past. Jim, what do you think of this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Well, first, I like this matchup a lot. It was the hardest fight for me to pick, and I think, based on what we've been doing lately, if I don't know which one I really want to go with, I'm just going to start saying a draw, because every time we get a fight like the Ricky Glenn and Grant Dawson fight ends in a draw, there's always a draw, right? And we never say it. I don't think this one's going to a draw. I'm actually going with Tybura in this one, and I think his path to victory is going to be on a few things that you said. He's really good at catching the legs and really good with trips, right? So
Yeah.
Volkov's length has been his greatest advantage in all of his fights, where I think in this one, he's going to throw a leg kick, Tybura's going to get him, push him up against the cage, trip him, and then it's going to be reminiscent of Volkov versus Blades, where you just wear him down, and we've seen Volkov struggle with wrestlers. And Tybura has been including more takedowns in his fights. I think he almost averages about 2 per fight. So I think that's going to be his path to victory, pushing the pace, catching that kick, tripping him, getting him down, and kind of smothering him. So this is the first one that I think is going to go the distance on the main card. So I'm going to go with Tybura by unanimous decision.
That was going to be my first question to ask you was how do you think Tabor is going to do against the kicking game of Volkov? Because, in that matchup against Gan, he threw almost, I think, 40 or 50 leg kicks just in itself, because it kind of reminds me of Sagat from Street Fighter, where he throws a lot of leg kicks.
Yep.
And he attacks the body a lot in those fights, because he has that long length, and those legs are just massive. So he uses those, and then it's kind of deceptive because of his striking kind of being better than the leg kicks themselves. But he's developed a very good leg kick game. It's in the past few fights. They were good, but I think it's developed even more since then, because he's had to use them more than usual since moving up the heavyweight.
Yep.
But I feel like as long as Tabor can get inside the legs, I can see that, just like you said with the Blades. Blades is on a different level with this wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel like with the leg trips, he can do it. He's not going to bum rush him like Blades and get the takedown, but he can get up close and kind of, like I said, level change, like fake the throw, level change, and then get the trip. And once the fight's to the ground, it's going to be harder for Volkov to get up. And I think that's why I'm leaning towards Tybura with the point off the shocking upset by unanimous decision, just because I don't see him knocking out Volkov, because Volkov doesn't get knocked out that really at all. He has a good chin, and I think it's going to be more control time with Tybura than anything else. I think you'll see a little bit of ground and pound, but because of that length, I think he's going to try and limit Volkov, keep him on the ground. And then I can see like 2, maybe 3 takedowns for him. It's not going to be a lot, but it's going to be enough to get the control time, sneak out 2 rounds. And then I see like a 3rd round, maybe where Volkov gets going and then puts a beating on Tybura. And then I could see Tybura surviving and then avoiding that 10-8 round. Kind of like you just mentioned, the Ricky Glenn Dawson fight, where Dawson just pressured him for the first 2 rounds, tired out, and then Glenn stuck out that draw with the last 10 seconds because Dawson couldn't get up. I don't see it like that. I think Tybura's gonna not overdo it, but he's gonna do enough to get the unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Unanimous decision. Tybura is not the knockout artist in this, and Volkov, like you said, chin is really good. He's absorbed some pretty good punches, and both of them have really just been comfortable with going to the decision. And I think that this is where it's going to go too. This didn't strike me as like the sexiest fight on the card, but it's going to be a very good technical fight.
I will say that Tybura has had a couple of knockouts in the past few fights. Of course, we know how his last fight went, but which was nice. But I don't see
Yeah.
that same thing happening. And like I said, I think he'll do enough to just pull out the victory by control time.
Was that a dig at Walt Harris? Is that another one?
If it wasn't me, like who else would it be?
Yeah,
Everybody
right.
else.
Sooner or later, he's gonna come on this show, and you're gonna be like, "Walt, huge fan of your game." Oh, I can't wait.
Well, let's remember. Well, let's remember he was supposed to fight on this card, and then
Yep, pulled out.
he
Yeah,
pulled out due to I think injury. So it's
yeah,
gonna keep on going.
yep.
But let's move on to the fourth fight on the card. We got a lightweight matchup between Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker, who is stepping in on a few weeks' notice after fighting last month on the Las Vegas pay-per-view. Makhachev comes in at 20-1, is the minus 700 favorite, whereas Dan Hooker comes in at 21-10 and is the plus 500 underdog. Makhachev has basic striking and is a southpaw. He mainly uses the straight right too and will be more reckless now and having success on his feet in past fights. He uses it to set up his double leg entries. He tends to lean back and to avoid strikes. Islam will pressure his opponents and cut the octagon in half to limit where his opponent can move so he can have better chances for takedown attempts. He has great timing and likes to go for single leg takedowns. Foot sweep is his X factor, and fighters struggle with it. He likes to use his armbar, and he goes for the back of his opponent, and his cardio is very good. Whereas Dan Hooker is a fighter who likes to throw the left hook, jab, and overhand shots. He also uses the front kick, leg kick, and body kick while trying to mix in the shots at times. He has a granite chin, great cardio, but usually only puts out mediocre volume. He has good takedown defense and has a good background in kickboxing, Muay Thai, and BJJ. And he tends to take too much damage at times, but knows how to attack his opponents. Jim, how do you feel about this fight, and who do you have winning?
This is a great matchup, and huge props to Dan Hooker for taking it. Hooker's an accurate fighter, like you said, and he's a very durable fighter, but he is hittable. We saw that with the Michael Chandler fight, where Chandler clipped that granite chin and put him to sleep. Islam is a more accurate striker and has
Yeah,
better striking defense. You would think like that big, huge head that Makhachev has, it would be very hittable, but it's not. Like he's very good with his head movement. The thing that separates these two is the relentless takedowns of Makhachev's. Hooker's got really good takedown defense. I think it's like 86%, but he's
yeah.
never gone up against someone like Islam Makhachev, which I think is going to be the difference maker. And I think that's what everybody thinks is going to happen. I think he averages about 4 takedowns per fight. He's going to get a lot of takedowns. He's not. I don't think Islam's going to stand there and trade with Hooker. I think he's going to look to get him with a single leg, smother him, grind him out, try to shoot for submissions, that armbar that you were talking about. Hooker's an absolute savage, and definitely a savage for taking this fight. But I don't see him getting the win, unfortunately, because I really do like Dan Hooker. I'm going to go with Islam getting the decision win.
This was tough for me because of course you got that big minus 700 number right there, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just pointing to Makachev. But then I look at Hooker, and it's like he just fought a month ago, and he looked really sharp doing that. And then with
Yep.
the striking, it tells you he doesn't put out a lot of volume. What does he do? He goes out and puts a good amount of volume in that fight that people thought that he might lose, and he looked really. I wouldn't say I would cruise to say he looked dominant in doing it. And
Yep.
you take the 2 fights before that, and that's against top 5 guys in Michael Chandler, who knocked him out. But
Yep.
then he put out that savage performance in a loss where he barely lost uh, to Dustin
Poirier.
Diamond Poirier, who is fighting for the title now. They went to war, and
Yep.
neither of them got knocked out. They just kept on going at it. That had probably one of my favorite fights of the past couple of years. And like you say, he's relentless with the takedowns. I thought he looked kind of, even though he won, I thought he looked kind of lackluster against Thiago Moises,
Yeah,
who barely broke the top 15. Dan Hooker's a top 10 fighter who's only lost really to top 10 guys. If you look at it,
yeah,
in Poirier and in Poirier and whatnot,
Chandler.
Chandler, and I could see a situation where if it's not Makhachev by decision, I could see Dan Hooker beating him by knockout.
Wow.
I could see it happen because he has that ability to just pour out that volume, and I think he's going to use a lot of the kickboxing to keep the distance, and it's going to be able to kind of keep an eye out for those takedown attempts, and then he's going to try and time them with
Yep.
strikes. And
Okay.
I, the one thing he needs to watch out for is when he throws the leg kicks. He has to hope that Makhachev doesn't catch them and drive him
Yep.
down. But if there's a guy that can take a beating, it's Hooker, and I don't think
Yep.
the striking of Makhachev is on the level that people say it is. I think he's just that really good with the grappling and the takedowns because of the background. Of course, yeah, he's a protege of Habib. We got a
Yeah.
couple of them. We actually got like 2 or 3 proteges on this card.
Yep.
Two in the main card and one on the prelims on the opener. And this could wind up being the fight of the night, to be honest, because
Yeah.
the
It's a good one.
contrast in styles. I'm gonna go crazy here. I'm gonna go with Dan Hooker by a third round knockout.
I don't think it's that crazy. Like a lot of people are riding the Islam train
Yeah,
because he has just dominated a lot of his fighters. But again, he hasn't really gone up against top 10 fighters. The
I was gonna
closest one
say.
was what, Drew Dober
Well, he has 2, Drew Dober, and then in
and Moises.
Armand, and well that, and then he barely beat Armand to Shorkin, who is in the
Oh
top
yeah,
15 now. He barely beat him in Armand's debut in the UFC, and
yeah.
Armand's gotten better since then, and he wants that rematch, so which could happen in the future. But I really haven't seen him fight like a pure striker, like Dan Hooker. The closest one is Moises. That's the
Yeah.
closest
But
one that you could say.
yeah, and his BJJ was really good too. So I think that's why there was a lackluster performance on Islam's behalf. A
Yeah,
lot of the top 10 have been kind of ducking Islam. That's what he's been saying. Nobody wants him. Dos
yeah.
Anjos doesn't want him. Blah blah blah. And then here's Hooker. He's like, yeah, I'll fight you. I don't want to. If I'm going to isolate him, I better get paid for it. So I'm not mad at your pick. I could see it happening, but it's hard to bet against Makhachev in this one.
I think it's a good thing I think it's a positive too that he fought a month ago because he has that
Yep.
adrenaline. He just fought, so and then he just goes right back into training like he just fought. So it's not like he has that dead time. It was like I got a quarantine for 17 days to go back anyway.
Yep.
So if I'm gonna be here, I might as well take a fight, get paid, and then because I'm gonna be here that long anyway. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like a
And he's
win-win for him.
Yeah, and he's training at the PI, so he's
Yeah,
getting different looks from different fighters who are coming in, and
yeah.
that good sparring rounds with top level contenders. So yeah, it's a win-win. This fight in general, like this is a fantastic matchup. Super pumped for this one.
But definitely, before we get going, pin this fight as possible fight of the night because I think it's going
Yeah,
to be up there in the swing of things. But let's
absolutely.
move on. Let's move on to the next fight on the card. We have the co-main event, which is an interim bantamweight championship fight that is going to pit Petr Yan versus Cory Sandhagen. Petr Yan comes in at 15-2 and is the minus 240 favorite, whereas Cory Sandhagen comes in at 14-3 and is the plus 200 underdog. Yan is a fighter who has very good boxing and likes to go between both stances. He has power in both hands. He likes to attack his opponents with forward pressure, and he is very methodical. He uses the 1-1 and the 1-2 often. He tends to cut off the cage to limit his opponent's movement, and he likes to catch kicks and sweep his opponents off the mat, off their feet. He likes to throw the counter left hook the most. He has a nice lead high kick, switch kick, and low calf kick. He tends to not check leg kicks, and at times he will overextend his punches. He has elite takedown defense. He likes to find offense off of clinch breaks and will look for straight elbows on top guard. He has good speed, cardio, and a granite chin. His range management is great, and he does good with striking defense and takedown defense, and he usually puts out high volume. Whereas Cory Sandhagen has been very active in the past couple of years. He likes to switch his stances often to give you several looks and uses a lot of feints. He always fights on the front foot and throws a jab to keep the opponent on the back foot. He mixes strikes up every fight so he doesn't repeat the same pattern and attacks all levels of your body. He tends to leave his hands low but has great vision. Sandhagen likes to fight on the outside and throw lower calf kicks. He tends to back up in a straight line when being pushed back. He doesn't have good takedown defense on paper, but uses scrambles as a way to avoid them. And his back is usually out in the open when he does that. He has good cardio, vision, and footwork. His chin is decent, and his striking defense is solid for his height. Jim, what do you think of this fight, and who do you have winning?
This is another great matchup. I actually am going to go with the underdog in this one, and I see Sandhagen getting the win and then going on and getting the rematch with Sterling. I think that Sandhagen is going to be better than his last fight against TJ Dillashaw, and isn't going to let it go to the judges. He thought that he did enough by peppering in the leg kicks using the jab, but obviously we saw it go to Dillashaw, right? Both these guys land heavy shots. They both throw heavy and are very accurate. Sandhagen's a little more hittable. Jan has good takedowns. Sandhagen has like suspect takedowns. But I think what you talked about is important to note. Sandhagen doesn't repeat his striking methods. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have a pattern, and he equally distributes to the body, to the head, to the leg. And I think that that's going to come into play because I don't think Jan has seen somebody like Sandhagen, who's kind of like that Swiss Army knife of strikers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know Aljo was going to go for the takedown. Jose was known for leg kicks and boxing. Sandhagen can do everything. He's got the spinning attacks. He's got the jumping attacks. Plus, he's got the 3-inch reach advantage. And he's a switch stance, which is the same as Jan. But I think that range advantage, the intense, like the anger of the loss to Dillashaw, and the title. I mean, he fought the former champ, right? To I believe a split. So I think that's all going to be the difference maker. So I'm going to go with the shocking upset here, like you did the last fight, and I'm going to go with Sandhagen by 4th round KO. I think he knocks Jan out.
True. I think the big thing with this fight is the style makes matchups theory, of course, of every fight.
Yep.
When you look at both of the last fight, Dillashaw was able to get those combinations going, and he was able to kind of get back into the fight. And then with Jan, he fought Sterling, and then the illegal knee. He kind of started out a little late, but then Sterling did a lot of, I would say, output, and then he got tired. Is it going to be the same issue? Because Sterling is another guy that had the height advantage and the reach against Jan, but he put in a lot too early because if the past repeats itself, they tell you Jan is a slow starter, and then he gets going, and then he builds steam throughout the fight, and then he can go all 5 rounds and some. So is Sandhagen going to try something of that, but not too much? But then
I don't think so. I think that Aljamain got too cocky and underestimated Jan. I think he believes his own hype.
I think he came in with the game plan that he was going to move around a lot, throw, and then he just tired out, and then he kind of got barreled out by the illegal knee because he was tired by that point, and then Jan was good to go because he kind of paced himself. I can see Sandhagen pacing himself, but I don't see him like he kind of has to switch things up a little bit because he can't let Jan get going because Jan pours out in the hundreds and 200s volume wise. And if you're just going there, like the game plan, I think he's going to go with this jab, leg kick because the Jan's not going to defend the leg kick well. And then because of the reach, you just use that jab because you got the reach. They tell you just keep on doing it because you got that reach, and he has to come inside you to hit you because he's going to be a smaller guy. You always have that jab to throw to, and it's going to be his go-to. And, of course, the leg kick. But if he's doing that, and then you got Jan rushing in there, hitting him with 2, 3, 4 combinations because your striking defense isn't that great because you're always open to shoot, is he going to get into a situation where he's connecting on punches and his cardio is good, but he's getting out-volumed?
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you got to knock him out. Is he going to be able to? Jan's chin's never been tested. He got hit early against Aldo, but then, of course, Aldo later on in the fight got knocked out because of Jan get going. You allow him to get going. Yeah. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going, and he gets that volume up. I want to go Sandhagen. I think he has what it takes, but I just think it comes to a point where unless he does something early, does like one of those crazy knee shots or elbows or something crazy where he like stuns Jan and gets him off his game plan early, I don't see any other way than Peter Yan by unanimous decision just because he racks up the volume.
Okay.
So I'm going to go Peter Yan by unanimous decision victory. I think I'm going to go 4-1 here. I think there's going to be a lot of rounds where it's close, but like I said, the volume's always going to be on Jan's side. But if you like you say you're doing, if you're going Sandhagen, it needs to be an early knockout or like at least hit him early where he gets him stunned and then he's off his game plan for the rest of the fight because he's trying to recover. Yeah. But like I said, I'm going with Jan.
Yeah, I think 3 things I would like to see. I'd like to see elbows off of the clinch, break when you break the clinch. I'd like to see spinning back kicks to the body. Sandhagen's good at that, and I'd like to see teep kicks to set the distance and find your range. Cory Sandhagen is also a slow starter at times. We saw that with the fight against TJ. Like he really had to find his range and find his distance. And Jan is very similar to TJ in the strike first, but has very good wrestling. So I'm not saying that Jan is TJ Jr. or vice versa. I just said, I'm thinking that their styles are kind of the same. I'm still going to ride with Sandhagen. I like him more than Peter Yan. I'll be honest. That swayed my vote a lot.
I could see the body kick being something that might work very well against Peter Yan. That body kick, because any way you can slow down Peter Yan, it's going to help out Sandhagen. So like the jab, the body kick, the high kick, anything that you can use. But I also think one X factor I think in this fight is going to be the grappling of Peter Yan because I think he can wrestle. He has that background. He has that background training with Habib and everything over there in that gym. So this could be the moment where you see him using that in a fight like this. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens or not. But either way, I got Peter Yan by decision.
Yeah, I love this matchup in general. Very excited for this fight.
Yep. But let's move on to the main event of the evening. We got a light heavyweight championship matchup between the champion Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira, the number 1 contender. Blachowicz comes in at 28-8 and is the minus 270 favorite, whereas Glover Teixeira comes in at 32-7 and is the plus 220 underdog. Blachowicz is a fighter who has good strength but can be flat-footed at times. He likes to charge forward and attack with combinations like the 1-2, 2-2, and 3-2. He tends to end combinations with a leg kick, and he is good at checking leg kicks as well. He tends to be predictable with his striking defense and will lean back with his chin in the air when fighting. He has real power in his hands and likes to coerce his opponents to fight his type of fight. He has strong chin but tends to bite on feet often. He tends to be low volume at times and can be a slow starter. and he likes to use double leg takedowns and body locks into leg trips. Whereas Teixeira is a fighter who has a knockout power and a strong frame. He has a black belt in both BJJ and Kajukengo. He also has a background in wrestling and boxing. He is very tentative and methodical on his feet, but aggressive on the mat. He goes for double leg takedowns and single leg takedowns. When on the mat, he looks for submissions or ground and pound. He likes to throw lower calf kicks, body kicks, and high kicks to keep his opponents thinking. He has a decent pace and cardio. He tends to use low volume, but is coached up well. And he's always a threat to knock you out from any position. Jim, who do you like in this fight, and who do you have winning?
I never thought we'd be talking about Glover Teixeira competing for a title in 2021, but here we are. Glover has been incredible his last 5 fights, as has Jan. But this is actually a closer fight than I think a lot of people are thinking about, and really have ruled Glover out because of his age. But we've seen him beat top 5 contenders, and really just walk his way up to this spot. I'd really love to see Glover win the belt. Honestly, I think this would be like that Cinderella moment for Glover, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Jan's going to use his jab and his leg kicks to soften Glover up and just wear him down, work him against the cage, kind of like bully him into the cage like he did with Adesanya. And I'm going to go with Jan Blachowicz by unanimous decision.
You got that Polish power.
We're going to see it, but I don't think it's going to be a knockout.
Well, I'm saying running in that lake training, he's got that Polish power dealing with that. Then you go into the octagon against Glover Teixeira. If you look at the past couple of fights that he's had, Glover Teixeira, it's been like a renaissance for him. He knocked out Anthony Smith and knocked out Dominic Reyes, and did it in crazy fashion. Like he's rediscovered that the power in his game at that age that he's at. Of course, hitting that 40 mark. This is likely one of his last fights, and what better way to do it than to go for the light heavyweight championship? He's going to have. This is one of those fights where the other guy's going to actually have the power advantage over Błachowicz. Usually Błachowicz has that advantage. I think in this fight he doesn't. And even in the wrestling game, I might lean a little bit towards Teixeira. But I think where it leans towards Błachowicz is the cardio.
Yeah.
He's been tested against guys now. He just went 5 rounds with Adesanya and beat him, and he was able to do that because of the leg trips, I would say. Not to take the leg trips. He was able to use his weight, get his opponent down, and then he controlled the fight on the ground. But then you get, just like you said, he likes to pressure guys along the fence as well. He does a little bit of everything now. He's been unstoppable. He hasn't been knocked out. That's a thing to keep an eye on. Teixeira's knocking guys out left and right. But when Błachowicz loses, it's usually by decision, not by knockout. And if Teixeira doesn't knock him out early, is he going to tire out, and then it's going to just turn into a Błachowicz fight where Błachowicz takes over, because of Teixeira being tired? I do think this is what I think is going to happen. I think Teixeira's going to catch him in the first round, but because this is a 5-round fight, I feel like Błachowicz is going to recover. He's not going to get knocked out. He's going to just get hit. He might fall down, and then he's going to get back up, and you're going to see Teixeira try and put too much into attacking him. He's going to defend the storm, and then he's going to take over because Teixeira is going to be tired, and then you got that for 5 rounds. That's going to benefit Błachowicz. Błachowicz is going to use those leg trips, take him down, control him on the ground, use those transitions to get into better spots to ground and pound him. I'm going to go with the 4th round stoppage for Błachowicz over Teixeira.
Okay.
I think Teixeira's going to get tired out, and then at some point he's going to have him on the ground, grind and pound him until he's just too tired to defend, and the ref's going to stop the fight, and then going to raise Jan Błachowicz hand in victory.
All right, so we're both going Blachowicz on this. The big thing is, that we didn't mention is that regardless of who wins this fight, the next in line is going to be at Fight Island watching this fight, Yuri Prochazka. He's filling in as the backup just in case. So that's whoever wins this fight going up against that samurai warrior. It's going to be a nightmare. But
if you haven't watched it yet, Yuri Prochazka put out a YouTube video yesterday where he kind of made fun of both guys. He did like his own press conference, and he had two like just things on the side, and he's speaking in, of course, his language, not English. And from people I know, he was just making fun of the fight, and then doing his own press conference saying that he was going to be there waiting to fight whoever. I think he's going to wind up not fighting the winner. I just have a feeling that they're going to finally. I think that they're going to finally make the Rakic and Prochazka fight to see who fights, because I think it's kind of crazy that Rakic was there at number 1 and then they moved him down even though he wins.
Yeah,
and then Prochazka won his last fight, but it wasn't against a better opponent, and he moves up ahead of him.
I think it's about personality, honestly, man. I think it's like sometimes it's just marketing and like who's gonna be the better flag bearer for the UFC, and I think Prochazka has that personality. Like you said, he's making YouTube videos talking shit about everybody. That he's the guy.
Yeah, but I'm hoping they do that because that make for a better fill-in until Błachowicz can go again, because of course he's fighting this Saturday. But even with that, this is going to be a good test from him. It would be crazy for him to win this fight against a 40-plus-old and then have to fight a 20-plus-year-old Yuri Prochazka in his next fight. That would be like just a change in age of his opponents, back-to-back opponents. And it would be crazy for him if he was able to win both of those. But just like I said, with the main event, I got Błachowicz by 4th-round stoppage.
All right. And I got decision. So there we are.
Yep. But that wrap things up for this preview, of course, of UFC 67, which is headlined by Błachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. All I ask you to do is send us your comments and your fighter lineup and picks for this Saturday. Of course, I'll be releasing my DFS by Cage video late in the week, probably Wednesday or Thursday, so keep an eye on that. Definitely watch this video. I want to get your opinion of who you think is going to win these 6 fights, and even throw in some of your prelim fight picks as well. But definitely hit the like button on this video, comment, and then subscribe to the Fighters First Network on YouTube. And then, of course, check out all the rest of the stuff that we put out. I just put out my PFL 10 2021 preview, of course, and then I'll be going and then check out the recap of UFC Vegas 41 that was just released live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. So check out all that. Give us some love, and we will be back next week, of course, to preview UFC 268. Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman 2, live from Madison Square Garden in New York City. That's going to be a crazy card in itself. But as always, I'm your host, D-Bake, and this is my co-host, James DiLullo, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.